Welcome back to JRL Golf Academy. In this episode, I interview Chris Mayson. Chris Mayson, who you asked, is probably one of the world's best golf coaches currently. He works with a ton of players on both the LPGA and PGA Tour. His mental prowess is absolutely top-notch. He goes over a lot of the mental aspects of pre- and post-shot routines, and also how to evaluate each shot so that you don't go down the old rabbit hole of getting frustrated and emotionally out of the game. So go ahead, you're going to pick up a bunch of nuggets in this episode. I hope you guys enjoy it, and welcome back to the JRL Golf Academy.
Yeah, who were your influences?
In terms of like swing mechanics and stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I know a couple of the coaches that you had.
Yeah.
Obviously, because I was out on tour with you at that time. So,
Yeah.
And you worked with some famous guys, but I know, knowing you now, like I know those weren't the only influences because you would have sought out everything.
I think I have, you know what I mean? Like I listen to everyone, right?
Yeah.
Like you, and then I take the pieces, the things that I do know, I'll be like, okay, that's status quo. No, that doesn't quite make sense. And if it doesn't make sense, I'll even look at it harder, Chris. You know what I mean? I'm like, why is this not making, what am I not understanding? And if I can, say, no, this doesn't add up at all, then I can dump it and have peace of mind. But I had early influences. I grew up taking lessons from Eddie Merrins, the little pro.
Wow.
Yeah. I spent 6 years with Eddie, and he was the UCLA champ coach, and I ended up going to SC. So I don't know. Sorry, coach. But Eddie Merrins starting out. And then, I did a lot of work with Mac O'Grady, with Andy Plummer, Mike Bennett. And then I've gone on, I work with Scott Calks. Pretty much all the mainstream guys I'll talk to right now that we all know and stuff like that. I talk to them all, I talk to Gigi as well, I just want to hear everybody's point of view on stuff. You know what I mean? That's it.
Yeah.
And then I'll make my own little brand out of it or what have you. But I think as a coach like yourself, you got to kind of go down those roads, right? And you got to go learn these things and see what's, you got to have a big toolbox, right?
Yes, you do.
At the end of the day, you can't be stuck on one thing. But that's kind of been my influences as a coach.
So as a player.
Oh, wait. And you too. Like, I can't, like, I don't, because we're friends and all that stuff. I know it's kind of weird, but I learn a lot from you. Like, I've now, and there's other coaches, I'm not going to name names, but some really big coaches that honestly feel that you're like probably one of the top coach right now on tour, realistically.
Me?
Yes.
Wow.
Because you can teach the entire deal, the entire wheel. It's not just like, just the mechanic of the golf swing. You know what I mean? Because that doesn't make, you made the most valid point to me I've ever heard as a coach when we talked one day, and you might remember this. And you said, John, 5 years ago, I would have been trying to teach everybody to swing like you. But apparently that wasn't the secret because you and I are teaching. Because Chris has a pure golf swing too. Because I'd be teaching Chris's golf swing. I would be teaching Chris's golf. Like, no joke, Chris has got one of the purest swings you'll ever see. He doesn't post it very often, but he really does have one of the pure swings. And to your point there, like I didn't have a bad golf swing.
Yeah.
But there was something there that like I didn't realize, and nobody like shook into my head like, dude, this isn't it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's why they think you're like really the top coach right now.
Wow. That's coming from you, that means a ton.
Yeah, I might not share who it is, a few of the guys, but they're big. I'll tell you that right now. They're big.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, so I've got a question for you because people won't know this, but you came and spent an hour with me and your son, was that 4 or 5 months ago?
Yeah.
And I said to you, I'll be like, you're going to be really disappointed with it, what I'm going to tell you, because it's stupidly simple.
Mm-hmm.
And your swing probably was as good as I've ever seen. Not yours, like of anybody's I've ever seen. Like I said to you, didn't I? I said, there's nothing I would change.
And that's what I appreciate. You know what I mean? Like you got to appreciate coaches like that. I do. You know what I mean? When they're like, "There's nothing wrong, dude. Go practice and go see a shot." Right? It's like, like Chris is the guy that I would go to if I had to go back to playing today. Right?
Yeah.
Chris is the guy that I would have in my corner. right? Because I know that you could take care of everything.
Yes.
More that I was not aware of before when I was a player. To me, it was always just like, dude, I've got to hit it straight. If I don't hit it straight, I can't play good. You know what I mean? So that's honestly the way I used to think. You know, I was Ricky Bobby. If I wasn't first, I was last. There weren't many dude, there were not many 15th place finishes for me. It was either I won or I missed the cut. And, you know, I guess that could be okay today on the PGA Tour, but I don't hit it as long as I used to. But, you know, you're the guy now that really can kind of manage everything, or at least give advice on everything, which I am trying to be more like you.
Wow, that means a lot. So knowing what you know now, right? You go back to 23-year-old John Ray Leary. What do you do differently?
I stretch more. I stretch a lot more. I work on short game more, and I'm nicer to myself.
Wow.
Yeah. I have to be nicer to myself. Yeah.
And then you do those things and you think that's what you need to do to get where you wanted to go?
Yeah.
Wow. It's not see that's the key. I hope there's some mini tour guys watching this now, because that's the key, and it's so small, isn't it?
Yes. You can do it, right?
Yes.
It's not unattainable. It's not about like, dude, you got to go lift 1,000 pounds a day or something. It's not that, dude. It's just being honest with yourself.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And it's not in finding that magic swing move, right? It's just putting your time towards the places that you need the time, and it's making sure your mind's really, really strong.
Yeah. Like, you can't overemphasize that. I think you maybe building my practices, because I'd love to talk to you about this, because I think you're the master at it. Building a practice to gain confidence.
Yeah.
Like a practice routine or schedule. You know what I mean? Like, when I was practicing, I would just go hit 500 balls a day and play 36 holes, you know? Yeah. And I was like, well, I practiced. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, did I really? You know?
Yeah. No.
I burned up time.
It's funny now. I mean, obviously, the practice stuff's a big deal for me, and the way I schedule it for my students. Now, I wish I could hold them more accountable, because I don't know which ones are doing it and which ones aren't.
Yeah.
Even though I ask them to do a measured practice, and then kind of hold them accountable towards doing that measured practice. But like, for instance, one of my LPGA girls her golf course is still open in Florida. And she says, "Oh, I'm getting so bored." And I'm like, "Well, what are you doing?" She says, "Well, I can't hit balls and I can't chip and putt, so I just go and play 18 holes." And I said, "Well, how are you playing the 18 holes?" She says, "Well, I just play one ball and play." And I'm like, "What are you doing?" Like that's good to an extent, but like you need to be working on stuff out there. And she says, "Well, how would I work on it?" So I'm like, "Well, maybe for 9 holes, right? You hit 2 drives, measure which ones are in the fairway or not, pick them up, and then you go and hit 2 wedge shots. Hit maybe one from 50 yards, one from 120, and then measure how far away you are from the pin. Don't even put them out, right? Then throw them off the green, put them in 2 different lays to see if you can get them up and down, and measure that. So you've got 3 measurable things. Did you hit the fairway? How close are you getting to the hole from your wedge shot? And then are you getting up and down from different lays? Like, so maybe that's 9 holes, right? Then maybe the next day you just work on your mental routine, but you take one of the 5 aspects of my mental routine and you really devote a ton of time to that. So maybe you're doing number 2, which is visualize what I want. Like, am I really clear with that visualization, right? Like, really see it until you can't see anything else. Then go and hit the shot, and then measure your performance based off just the visualization part. So there's so many different layers of the practice that can improve you as a player that people just don't get into.
See, you had me there. Like, I was stuck on you there, because, like, real quick in the video, guys, this will be on YouTube. That was a complete nugget right there. So just mark that time in the YouTube video. That's a complete nugget right there, Chris. See, that's what, if I go back to playing, say one day in 10 years from now, I'll be 50. I'm going to be, Chris, can we do that again? Or I'm going to play this video all over again, just the way you used to play the YouTube videos all over again. I'm going to play that nugget right there. That's phenomenal. And that's where I want to get as a coach. You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
Where you're like, dude, no, here's the prescription because I've done this before, and you're having success with it. More importantly. So what's it like now? Okay, so we kind of gone the mini tours. You got into teaching. You're now at La Costa. Let's kind of catch up now. Who was IK Kim your first tour pro?
Yes, she was. She was my first big name, and to be fair, I mean, she came to me and played tremendously right away. But to my point earlier, like here I've got a girl who's 20 years old, 21 years old. She's, I think, the time 40 in the world. Like she's ascending on her own, irrespective of me, right? She's working really hard. She's extremely motivated. She lives in San Diego. The problem that she came to me with was very technical. Like she would go really deep with her hips early in the backswing. Arm gets dragged in, club gets across the line. It gets stuck back underneath, and she's hitting massive blocks and flip hooks.
Yeah.
It was such an easy fix, right?
Yeah.
So
Hey, what'd you do for teacher talk real quick? What'd you do? What was the drill?
For me, like I love a lot of depth, but like it was just like I don't love across the line because there's so many different matchups that have to happen on the downswing in order for it to come back, right? Most people in my experience that get way across the line drop it way inside on the downswing, the face is wide open, they've got a big huge block, or they've got to flip it and they've got a snap hook.
Yeah.
So I just had to run that first move a little quieter and feeling more out, a little less right knee extension on the backswing.
Okay.
And then let her turn later, which got the club more online. So then the club, as a result, came down more online on the downswing, and then she just hit it straight. So that was like the 2 hours of the first lesson. Like and then she's looking at me like I'm a genius, right? And she's like, when can I have my next session? Can you come to Oakmont with me? Can you do this event? Can you do that event? And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that for sure. So then she went on an absolute tear that year. She finished in the top 5 of all 5 majors, all 4 majors at the time.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, she had a good chance to win. I think she finished 3rd at US Open, 2nd at British. Like it was incredible.
Wow.
And then she won at the end of the year, and I think she moved up to like 6th or 7th in the world.
Let me ask you this. Were you deviating much from that first lesson when you were at the events with her, or as like say the 6 months goes on? Are you guys changing much, or is it just kind of, hey, dude, I'm just managing at this point?
See, I don't change golf swings, I would say, particularly. Like I had a question from a lady the other day who said, hey, like I've been on your Instagram and all your swings look the same. And I said, a little offended because I feel like most of my swings are quite different.
Yeah.
But then I kind of went through it and I'm like, I'm only posting my preference swings.
Yeah.
Right. Like I teach a bunch of different swings and I teach differently, but like I'm only posting the swings that I'm like, ooh, that's really pretty and I like the way it looks. Right. But there's a bunch of like I'm not showing certain swings from certain angles because it looks like crap.
Right? Yeah. It's our beauty shot. Like this is my beautiful side. I know it's scary, right?
Yeah. So to your question, like I believe, and the players that I'm working with, they're all great tournament players, right?
Yeah.
Most of the time, especially living where we live, they've got a tournament within a week or 2.
Yeah.
Right. Very rarely do you get an off season like with the tour player where like there's a fundamental change that we need to make and it's going to take a couple of weeks to get through it. Like almost all of my lessons, and I pride myself on this, they need to hit it better at the end of the lesson than they do at the start.
Yeah.
End of story, right? They need to understand the problem. They need to know what the solution is. They need a drill to get it better, and they need to understand the ball flight law so they can practice and work on it on their own. So to your point with IK, like once I get that first lesson out the way, if I've got the information correct, especially with a great player, we're only working on 1, maybe 2 things, right? We're not working on 3 or 4 things. And if we're still working on something different in 6 months, like that was my bad from the get-go. Like I got it wrong.
Yeah.
So you got to get it right immediately because the tour players are so good, they're going to hit it better immediately.
Yeah.
And then from there, you just stay on that same track.
Yeah.
And to your point with her is we were pretty much working on that same thing.
Cool. So she was very clear-minded when she was playing in terms of like, dude, this is the one thing I need to do.
Yes, exactly right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
like the tour players, you can't have 3 or 4 things they're working on. Like it needs to be a thought that then changes to a feeling, and they need to be able to execute that feeling when they play.
Yeah.
So, so she was doing great.
Let's take this question real quick. Kevin JP Murray, play worst ball of the two for each and every shot. She was probably talking about like when you were having your tour player there in Florida when they were practicing.
Yes, I mean I love worst ball. I have my players do that a lot, but you need to be at a certain level in order to do the worst ball. Like you can't, like if you're a 10 handicap, don't be playing worst ball. Don't do that at all. Yeah.
Play a scramble.
Yeah. I had one of my best players that I've ever worked with. I had her do a scramble right before the LPGA was meant to go. She was like, "Oh, I don't feel like I'm playing that well," and I'm like, "Well, do a scramble and you kind of see what your best level is."
Yeah.
Right. And she was like, "Oh my God, like I really hit a lot of great shots." And I'm like, "That's going to be good for your mental game, right?" But if someone's really strong mentally, I'll send them out and do worst ball because then you learn more about your game, right? Where the deficiencies are and where the misses are. But you need to be strong mentally in order to be able to sack up with that worst ball.
Right. The scramble's an interesting one. I mean, I always felt like, especially with high handicappers, it just shows, hey, dude, this is your potential. Yes. Right? Like, this is your potential. You know, if they're used to shooting 100 and they go out and play a scramble and they shoot 90, it's just showing them, like, hey, this is your potential.
100%.
Yeah. So now how is it, you've got so many tour players, how do you balance all these tour players now?
I've got 2 PGA Tour players, which works out very well. So that's very easy to divide up. I don't know. There's some guys. I know Scott Hamilton's used to have 10 or something.
Yeah,
crazy.
He had like 12 at one point that I know of.
No, there's a great story. Last year at the Masters, I go up to Pete Cowan and I'm like, Pete, you got 10 guys here. Like, how are you dividing the time up? It's crazy. He goes, Pete's awesome, right? I rank him as high as it gets. He goes, I remember this one time at in Paris, a European tour. I had 17 European tour players in the same event, 17. And he said, I was having a cup of tea up at the clubhouse, and you go down the steps towards the range, and I get 100 yards away from the range, and 16 of the 17 are on the range. And I was like,
oh, no.
Oh, my God. I'm like, what did you do? And he goes, what do you think I did? I turned around, went back to the clubhouse, got another cup of tea.
That's classic, good. Man. That's classic. Just so wait for them to disperse.
I know. So good. But I've got a weird situation right now. I've had more LPGA players than I've ever had. I think I've got 11 now.
Okay.
But interesting, like I would say 7 of them don't want to do anything during the event.
Okay.
So if I travel, like I'm not seeing 7 of them. Like most of the information they understand, they know what to work on, they know how to do whatever it is that we're working on, and they don't really want any time, which is really interesting. So it sounds like I've got a lot, but it's not like I'm just crammed when I get to the event.
I gotcha. Chris Brooklander asked, what are the 5 mental things that you like?
Great question. So most people don't know, but my education is in psychology. So my undergrad from Purdue was psychology, and then I'm doing my master's in sports psychology. So I felt like that was the best road. That was what I was most interested in. Some guys are really into the biomechanics, but for me, it was all about improving performance and improving the mind, because it's, you can't see in there. People can tell you, but usually they don't tell you what's really going on.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my background. So for me, I've kind of developed a mental process around all the stuff that I've learned from the great players I've been around, the great coaches I've been around. So mine's a 5-step process. So number 1, you decide what you want. So the decision might be, I'm going to hit a little fade that's 162 yards off the edge of the bunker and comes down 10 feet left. The more specific you can be with the decision, the rest of it becomes much easier.
Okay.
Right. Number 2 would be visualize what you want. Now, there's 2 types of visualizers. There's guys who are very I say visual, but almost like a Bubba Watson. So they're kind of seeing the shot tracer. And I like my players to like pick their favorite color and visualize the entire flight of the ball. But then there's another section of.
Yeah, there you are. You got me?
Good.
All right,
so then
there's
another, So number two, to visualize, there's another section of players that are very linear with what they're doing. So they can't see like an artist the way the ball moves. They can only see the flag, or they can only see their target. So you need to figure out which one of the two that you are.
Can you be both, do you think?
I mean, I think you can on certain shots, but I think it's difficult to. I want my players practicing those methods, right? So the one is easier because you can see the shot tracer in your favorite color. The other one would be like really focusing a breath onto the target or onto the tree or whatever the target is. Maybe it's a flag, right? And maybe you're just seeing the flag. So I had one player I worked with a few years ago who was the NCAA champion. She ended up being a champion on the European tour, but she couldn't see it. So she would just visualize the flag. But it became really difficult when I was trying to hit it like 10 feet left of the flag. She couldn't hit it 10 feet because she could only see the pin.
She couldn't see the pin anymore, right?
Yeah, which is really interesting. So that's number two. Number three would be feel what you want. So now you've got your visual of this 162-yard fade. You try and put that feeling into your body. So golf's great because you've got this ability to pre-program what it is that you need. So I want my players kind of feeling exactly what it is that they're going to do. Now, my preference would be to almost do the entire golf swing exactly how you want to do it, right?
Okay. So one real rehearsal, this is how I'm going to do it.
Yes, like I remember Olafable would just do that violent practice swing next to the ball, right? Yeah. Davis Love would do his rock start, kind of exactly how he wanted it to be. Jim Furyk's got an amazing pre-shot routine because he really gets dialed into what it is that he wants. But like someone like a Tiger does like a little halfie, you can see him kind of practicing the feeling of the path and face that he's looking for, and feeling of the high or the low or the draw. So you need to feel what it's going to be like with the club head. This is not a technical, here's the movements of my body that need to be created. It's a hands and arms, almost like this is the feeling that I need in order to create the shot that I'm seeing, right? So that would be number three. And then number four, as soon as you know what you want, you commit to what you want. So that has to be done pretty quickly. That's the hitting the ball part. So you're really kind of being engaged into repeating the feeling, right? The longer you stand over it, the more bad thoughts can get in. Good thoughts don't come when you're standing over it. Right?
Yeah.
Like it's only bad thoughts. So you're trying to make that pretty quickly between once you've felt what you want, you move quickly into just doing it, right? That's number four. And then number five is the post-shot routine. So in post-shot routine, most people will put their shot into two categories, good or bad. I don't want my players to do that. I want them to put it into, if they hit a good shot, I want them to gain confidence. So they'd say, for instance, in that situation, wow, what a great 8-iron I just hit there, right? And then they'd see it again. It's called imprinting. They'd see the whole shot again. Wow, what an amazing shot that was. So they're affirming the confidence of the great shot that they've hit, which no one does, right? But golf's really hard. Like when you hit a great shot, you should be congratulating yourself, right?
Are you trying to almost like timestamp that sort of so that they can come back to it?
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly.
With bookmarks.
Right. So it's like I did this one great shot, but now I'm going to visualize that shot 10 times over and make sure I put it in my memory bank.
Yeah.
Right. So, and then feel in your swing. Like I remember what I did with my swing there. The feeling was really good, and I need to feel that swing again because I'm going to need to do that again.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the good side of the post-shot routine. Now, if the shot is poor, I don't want them losing confidence. So I want them to try and learn something, right? So I would immediately go back to number one. Did I run a great mental process? If I did, then I can really learn something about my swing, right? I can learn that I dropped it inside and started it too far right, or maybe I over-released the club and it went too far left. Whatever it was that I did. If I ran a great mental process, it must have been technical, right? if I didn't run a good mental process, well, why did I not? I can't look at my swing now because my mental process was so poor. So at that point, you'd go deeper into your mental process. Well, was my decision poor? Did I not really see the shot that I wanted? Did I not commit to the feeling that I pre-programmed? What was it that went wrong in the mental process that's going to allow me to learn something? Then you redo the shot, right? So, okay, well, I felt like it was this much and it didn't fade enough. So I'm going to rotate a little harder and leave the face more open. And that's the swing I wanted. Fantastic. I've left my process with a feeling that I wanted. I'm not affirming the bad swing. I'm redoing it and creating a good swing.
So you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong, but on the post shot, when you've hit a poor one, with the process that you have, no time or is there any chance to become emotional because you need to be factual?
Yes.
So, okay, cool. So you can't
exactly.
go down the rabbit hole.
Everything is neutral, right? So I'm big into a growth mentality, in that either you're going to gain confidence from this shot or you're going to learn something from this shot. But either way, you're going to become a better player through being engaged into this shot.
Yeah.
So now you've created a culture and a process that's only going to allow you to get better.
Yeah.
And therefore you should feel really good about that process of improvement.
Yeah.
And know that if you run this great process every time, you're only going to get better because you're going to learn about how shitty your shots are, or you're going to gain confidence, in which case you're going to be more confident for the next opportunity.
So you got a system in place already.
You got to have you got to have a process.
Yeah, you got to have a process. You got to have a system, because then it doesn't need to become emotional. Like you said, those are the times that we go down the rabbit hole too much.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about the opposite situation, you and I have played some really bad golf, right? You're basically running exactly the opposite of what I just said, right?
Like, I could be honest. I would be completely son of a right after a bad shot. There was no thought process of like, was my face close to my path? What was did I see a clear target? Did I see a shape of it? There was none of it. It was just complete reaction always.
Exactly right. Right. And then the shot's poor, and then you get emotionally upset about it, which means now that you've attached some emotion to it, you're going to remember it better.
Yeah.
So now you've just lost some confidence, because then your self-talk's probably going to be really bad. Yeah. Wow, that was such a bad swing. I'm such a bad golfer. I'm playing so badly.
Chris, we're getting into the deep stuff here, dude. This stuff is really, really, really good.
Thanks for watching, everybody, the JRL Golf Academy. Please make sure to link and comment down below. Make sure you subscribe and turn on that little bell for notifications. And we look forward to seeing you on the next JRL Golf Academy.